Today we're gonna talk about tariff wars that started in 2025. Why tariff war started? Because the trade deficit and budget deficit in the US was growing in a rapid race and become larger and larger portion of GDP. So each they started this tariff war to bring down the percentage of trade deficit out of GDP. For example, if right now is 8% of GDP, they want to bring it down to 3%. And everything goes back to this graph here. This graph shows that how the trade deficit was becoming larger and larger, and when there is no sight to stabilize this situation, foreign companies and foreign countries would lose trust in a system that may not be able in a long run sustain such a trade deficit. So the whole reason for starting a tariff war to bring back manufacturing to the US. That's what they say, to bring back manufacturing and to strengthen the consumption inside the US. So let's go over and fact check that why this is not happening and why the main reason for starting tariff wars is to bring down the trade deficit and budget deficit. In order for manufacturing to be revived in a country, there needs to be an industrial policy that is mostly government led. In, the, in this industrial policy, government need to show the country what industries need to be strengthened, what industry need more capital, and how we could find those labor workers and skilled workers to go and function those companies and factories. So in all these areas, we are seeing the opposite happening. For example, when it comes to skilled workers, when we see there's like a huge fee on H1B visa, $100,000 on H1B visas, it means it make it almost impossible for companies to bring in skilled workers from other countries. So it's gonna be shortage of skilled workers, and the educational system in US cannot produce this amount of skilled workers in a short period of time. The second one is some other labor intensive works that are not skilled but need uh, long hours of work, and those are that working in factories. Also, in that area, when we see a crackdown on illegal immigration, this crackdown caused that there are shortage of labor in other areas that was historically didn't have those problems, but now is going to have those problems. And the third issue here is there was a slight government-led industrial policy, CHIP Act, in the Biden administration that kind of give a direction to a certain industry, uh, and government come and invest in those industries, but that act is gone, and they're not going to focus on that. So there was a slight attempt to have an industrial policy, and that is gone too. So as you can see, this has nothing to do about manufacturing, and it has nothing to do about that other countries are taking advantage of the US. And it has everything to do with budget deficit and trade deficit that are unsustainable and cannot be relied on for a long run. So why right now in this situation, what's going to happen and why these steps are taken? Right now, although the government could collect more and more tariff or tax on the products that enter into the country, that's true. And this tax on short term or even maybe medium term is gonna bring down the percentage of trade deficit to overall GDP and budget deficit to overall GDP. But in a long run, is gonna redirect the supply chain away from the US. So that in that way, the supply chain that was involved in some areas with the US is going to be redirected away from the US because more and more companies around the world realize that it's not beneficial for them to have large presence in the US. They either reduce their presence in the US or um, completely exit from the US market. So in a way is they're gonna redirect away from the US supply chain, and that is gonna be very hurtful for the US economy in the long run. And also, as you can see, the labor expenses in the US also is not competitive when we look at it in the world stage, is not competitive, and the labor cost is high. So there are many reasons for manufacturing not to return back to the US, and these policies are only for short to medium term to increase the budget and to increase the tax for budget deficit and trade deficit. Okay, guys, this was for today's video. Have a good one. Bye.